Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. Now, I really had to look at the Danny Jacobs and the Gennady Golovkin middleweight title fight that went down yesterday. I had to view this fight at least four times to come up with a definite decision before I made this video, and I conclude that there is no way in the world that Gennady Golovkin won this fight. No way in the world. And I try to give him the benefit of the doubt because I'm not gonna go off my initial response, like I usually do, to determine my decision. So, like most video uploaders, but at the same time, to be fair to them, they would like to get the information out, and then they'll go back and review it again, and they'll kind of revise they'll revise their initial thoughts if they feel that, okay, looking at the fight again, maybe there are some things there that I could see that Golovkin won the fight. But in this case, no way in hell, because I gave Golovkin only 3 rounds in this fight. 3 rounds, maybe four, to be, if you want to be generous, because there's like maybe one or two closer rounds where it could have got either way between both men. But other than the knockdown and the 3 rounds that Golovkin won, Danny Jacobs schooled Golovkin. I mean, throughout the fight. I mean, the first 2 rounds I gave it to him. Maybe the third round was a bit of a toss-up. Fourth round, obviously, went to Golovkin. Fifth round, that was a bit of a toss-up. Maybe you can give that to Golovkin. But other than that, all the other rounds, he just swept Golovkin throughout the later rounds. And let me tell you why he did it. Because Golovkin gave Jacobs too much respect in this fight. Too much respect, and that's very rare for a guy like Golovkin to do that, because he felt Jacobs' power. He felt those combinations coming in, especially particularly the body shots that he was absorbing from Jacobs. It really slowed the Golovkin down, because once he was getting hit by that, he looked very disoriented. He looked very confused. Given the fact that Jacobs was switching southpaw throughout the most of the fight to confuse Golovkin, which it really worked. He had some success doing that. But I wanted to go back to the knockdown real quickly, because that knockdown right there was, it was legit. Golovkin hit Jacobs against the ropes. He pinned him on the ropes, and he knocked him down with 2 rights. But when he hit him with the second right, it seemed more of an off balance shot, because when Jacobs got hit by it, he didn't react to it very bad. He didn't react to it badly. He just got hit by it. The next, his feet came underneath him. So it was more of a balance issue after he got hit. So it wasn't the fact he got hurt, because Jacobs absorbed those shots very well. He just showed no signs of being hurt. His legs were still underneath him. He was still boxing at the pace he was boxing throughout, from the first round to the end. And during the exchanges, he was very, very happy to go, to get exchanges with Golovkin. He's still right in front of him in most part of the fight. So, then he was, taunting him during the fight, which you don't really see Golovkin's opponents do. I know Kell Brook did it in their fight, obviously. And Golovkin in this fight didn't really take that kindly against Jacobs. He was really getting frustrated because he just couldn't do what he want in this fight. Now, as far as the mistakes he made, Golovkin, as I've always said, he just doesn't have upper lateral movement, and he just has slow reaction timing. That's just how he is. Now, as far as the head movement is concerned, I would be fair. He did show a little bit more of that in this fight compared to his previous fights, but he was still hitting target due to the fact that he has slow reaction time. He's extremely flat-footed, and very slow, slow flat-footed guy, and that right there would make you a sitting target if you don't fight off your toes, and that's what he's not good at doing. However, the only thing he was able to do in his line of defense was trying to parry off the shots the best way he could by stepping back. But due to Jacob's reach, it was kind of difficult for him to do. So he was just, it made him think twice before trying to, because Golovkin can't really fight from that far distance, because he doesn't have the range. However, the jabs he did have an effective jab to some degree, but that was only in the early half of the fight. But then Jacobs found a way to try to get around that, to negate that. He was finding success, Danny Jacobs, with the uppercuts, just like Kell Brook was finding success with doing in their fight. The counter shots, the long jab to the body, mainly the body punches, that what got Golovkin. It really got to him in the inside fighting. He just didn't have his way like he usually does with other opponents in inside fighting, when he can bully them through the ropes. So And this is what happens when you fight a guy that's naturally bigger than you. And speaking of that, let me touch up on that real quickly because I got to call out the hypocrisy. You know how I do it, guys. You know how my motto is that you can't always have it both ways. I'm hearing all these Golovkin fanboys, these goddamn fanatics. They're all bitching about the fact that the reason why they're bitching about Danny Jacobs' performance, the reason why he was able to perform so well is because he rehydrated to a certain amount of weight that he wasn't supposed to rehydrate, and also the fact that he missed the IBF mandatory what you call it morning day weigh-in, which is equivalent to the same day weigh-in, which states by the IBF that you cannot weigh no more than 10 pounds going into the fight after the official weigh-in. So that's the IBF regulation. However, the WBA and WBC doesn't have that type of rule. So Jacob skipped it, which prompted the IBF to not sanction the fight. Okay? So these motherfuckers now are using that particular standard to demonize Jacobs and undermine his performance. It's funny they will go there and say that because, and they're calling him a weight bully, calling Danny Jacobs a weight bully. It's funny because they didn't say that about David Lemieux because David Lemieux did the same shit last week. He skipped the same day weigh-in. He weighed well over 100, close to 185 pounds when he brutally knocked out Curtis Stevens. Looked like a little midget there against him. They didn't say nothing about that. They didn't say anything about Golovkin being a weight bully when he dragged up Kell Brook from 147 up to 160. All right. The same Golovkin who have no problem going after small guys like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, will he try to get to come up in weight? Yeah, I know he wanted to meet those guys that catch weight, but let's be honest. Golovkin was going to rehydrate back up to normal fight weight after the weigh-in if he had fought one of those guys. Let's be real. So why aren't you guys calling Golovkin a weight bully instead? You calling Danny Jacobs a weight bully based off this alone? And by the way, Golovkin was trying to fight Carl Froch, who's a much bigger and powerful guy than Danny Jacobs. You guys have no problem with Golovkin trying to fight him. Why aren't you calling Carl Froch a weight bully if he was willing to take a fight with Golovkin? You see the double standard when it comes to this mess, man. It's just sickening. It kills the sport of boxing. Really. And let's be honest here. I got to get to the scorecards before I end this video. The scorecards was atrocious. It's atrocious, the scorecards, but the punch stats. It also showed that Golovkin landed nearly 100 more shots than Jacobs, which I find very suspicious because there's no way in hell Golovkin was that active to throw that many punches. Even Abel Sanchez pointed that out. Abel Sanchez said, look, you got to be more busier, man. You're not throwing enough shots. This was after the 11th round. Okay? And, these guys also talking about, numbers don't lie. That proves that Gennady Golovkin won the fight. I'm talking about the Golovkin fanboys. Well, really? When does punch stats matter to you guys? Because when Mauricio Herrera got blatantly robbed by Danny Garcia, you ignored the punch stats because the punch stats showed that Danny Garcia outlanded Mauricio Herrera, which I thought was bullshit. So how can you cite the punch stats now, given the fact that you neglected them in the Garcia and Herrera fight? I'm just saying. I'm just pointing out the double standards here. They'll just go out the way to defend this crap, okay? And then the last thing I gotta say is they're trying to equate this particular the sour grapes that some of us are having over the fact that they're trying to compare this to the Andre Ward Kovalev fight. Please, that fight was much more closely contested than this one. Ward didn't perform as well as Jacobs did against Golovkin. But that's all I gotta say. What are your thoughts are? I'm out.